Shelby lore, illustrated by Sandra Chilzer.
Liz the lizard was always a worrisome little creature due to her size. She was so tiny compared to her big home, the jungle. One day, Liz told her best friend Lane about her fear of getting lost.
Lane took the time to listen to his friend's worries. Lane offered to help Liz by searching through the treetops to help Liz find her way home. After talking to her friend, she thanked him for his help and felt better about her size in the forest. The end.
Clocky Catches Up. Clocky has a great life. He gets up, goes to school, comes home, and goes to the park. He spends maybe a little bit too much time at the park, and this is starting to make him feel behind in school. In this perfect school world, Clocky looks around, and it seems like no one has the same problems as he does. Everyone else's hands seem to be moving at a steady pace, and this causes him to feel stressed because his hands are moving slower than the rest. After school, feeling stressed, Clocky decides to go to the only place that makes him happy, the park. His parents and grandparents are starting to feel worried about him, so Clocky's grandpa goes to find him at the park. After sitting on his swings and talking with his grandfather, Clocky seems to understand the importance of managing his time. His grandpa tells him that it is okay to go to the park, but that it is just as important to focus on school and family time at home. Clocky and his grandfather decide that to get back on track, he can try a new routine. He will go to school, and then instead of going straight to the park, he will come home and start on his schoolwork. That way, he won't have to worry about school and fall behind. He can then go to the park and have fun. Clocky put this plan to a start and started to see that his hands started to move at the right pace again. His grades were good again, and he still had time for the park.
So our story is Finn Finds His Truth. It was Mother's Day in Finn's magical town. He went to the flower shop in town to pick up a special flower for his mom. Finn picked out a beautiful flower for his mother. It had 6 petals, each a different color. Finn began walking through the magical town, and on his way home, a man asked Finn where he got such a beautiful flower. Finn spoke back to the man and said, "I grew it myself." When Finn said this, the red petal on his flower turned gray and fell off to the ground. Everything red in Finn's world disappeared and turned gray too. Finn was sad about this, but kept walking home. Another man asked Finn where he got his flower. Again, Finn said, "I grew it myself." Suddenly, the blue petal on Finn's flower turned gray and fell to the ground. All the blue in Finn's world faded to gray. Finn was very upset and did not know what was happening. A woman came up to Finn and asked him where he got his flower. Finn, for the 3rd time, said, "I grew it myself." As Finn told this lie for the 3rd time, the last 4 petals on his flower turned gray and fell off. Everything in Finn's world faded away, and he was left with only the flower's stem. Finn started to cry. A bee flew up to Finn to collect the pollen. Finn's flower was dead, though. When the bee saw the dead flower, he knew that Finn had been lying. The wise bee explained to Finn that he needed to tell the truth. Finn understood. The bee asked Finn where he got his beautiful flower. Finally, Finn replied, "I got it from the flower shop in town." When Finn told the truth, all 6 of the colored petals on his flower sprouted back up. Finn was able to see all of the color in his world again. He thanked the bee for teaching him to tell the truth. Finn ran home to give his mother the flower. At last, Finn made it home to surprise his mother with the beautiful flower for Mother's Day. Finn's mom joyfully raised her arms up to give Finn a big hug.
Oliver Takes a Chance. There once was a lonely owl named Oliver. Each night he looked down from his tall tree at the other animals in the busy forest, but he was too shy to fly down and make friends with them. He had one friend and another owl named Annie. She didn't like that Oliver was lonely. She often tried to get him to meet the other creatures, but he was always too scared and said maybe. Oliver became even shyer as time went on and wouldn't even visit Annie. Annie became very worried about Oliver's loneliness and went over that night. She tried to show him that he needed to make friends. Oliver still felt too nervous.
But as Oliver was saying maybe, she pushed him out of his tree and flew after him. Oliver was so surprised that he flew straight down into the forest. He was very frightened as the other animals came over to meet him, but Annie introduced each one.
Oliver found that he had a lot in common with the other animals. He liked to fly over the lake just like Harold the hawk. He liked to play in the trees just like Rilla the squirrel. And Art the hedgehog was nervous about meeting new people just like Oliver. Annie was proud of Oliver for being brave and meeting her friends. And Oliver was proud of himself for coming down from his tree. He had learned that it was much better to meet new friends even if it was scary than to stay in his tree and be lonely. He couldn't wait to see his new friends again.
Darcy Fits in.
Once upon a time there was a poison dart frog named Darcy. Darcy was starting a new school and was very nervous. They were worried that they would be the only frog that wasn't smooth and green.
When Darcy got off the bus and walked into the class, all the frogs turned and stared at them. Some frogs started laughing at them. One frog came up and called them mean names. Darcy felt very defeated and wished they hadn't come to school at all.
That was until the teacher hopped into the room. The bully stopped in his tracks as the moss frog took his seat at the teacher's desk. The two unique frogs looked at each other and Darcy felt accepted in the classroom.
Daisy's adventure.
Daisy is bored, she is tired and doesn't know what to do. Daisy gets an idea. Why don't I paint something and try something new?
Daisy learned how fun it was to be creative, so she wants to share it with her friends outside. Daisy found what she was good at, tried something new, and she shared her ideas with her friends and family.
Ariana's first day at school. It is Ariana's first day in a new school after moving from a different town. She was walking down the hall with her friend Alex on the way to the cafeteria for lunch when she fell flat on her face. A couple of strangers see that she has fallen. Meredith, Monica, and Jim go over to help her. She gets flustered as they try to help her, and her stress builds up.
Alex follows her out and tries to comfort her. As she starts to calm down, Meredith, Monica, and Jim arrive to make sure that she is okay. Ariana assures them that she is fine, just embarrassed by the situation, and explains she gets really nervous around new people. Ariana describes her social anxiety like sinking in quicksand. The group encourages Ariana and tells her that they have her back.
Sporky finds his place. All was calming down in the house of the Max. Sporky was preparing for his first day of middle school. Sporky had his first day jitters. He was not sure if he was going to fit in, but as Mom and Dad tucked him in, his worries seemed to go away.
Sporky entered the cafeteria for lunch. This was the moment he had been dreading. Who would he sit with at lunch? He scanned the room and saw a table full of spoons, a table full of knives, a table full of forks, but not a spork in sight. He did not know where he fit in, so poor Sporky sat by himself.
That evening, the Macs sat down for their family dinner. Sporky was unusually quiet. Dad began to question Sporky on his day. Sporky's eyes began to tear up as he explained his day, for he felt like he didn't fit in with the other kids. Mom explains that everyone is different, and you need to find similarities to make a connection. Dad said it's okay to be a little different because no one is exactly the same.
The next day at school, Sporky walked in with a new attitude. Sporky walked over to the table of forks and introduced himself. He complimented the forks on their long prongs and pointed out his little prongs. The forks invited him to sit down and began to ask questions about his unique roundness. Sporky finally felt like he belonged.
Jaden makes his shot. Jaden is new to the basketball team this year.
This is the first game where Jaden gets the chance to play along with his teammates. He gets the ball and he is ready to shoot, only to miss his shot. Immediately he feels embarrassed and disappointed because his teammate Mark is making fun of him for missing his shot. Halftime approaches and the coach approaches him before he goes into the locker room. The coach reassures him that he is a new player and cannot make every shot. The second half of the game is on and Jaden gets back on the game. He gets the ball to shoot, only this time he makes it. Jaden instantly feels a boost of self-confidence and happiness.